Welcome to Makeover Mondays on LinkedIn and Facebook. I'm Rosemary Ravinal, and I'm your media trainer and public speaking coach. This is a space where every week for 30 minutes, I talk with a professional, an innovator, a communicator, someone who was really redefining the virtual meeting space, either through production, through messaging, through wardrobe and styling. Well, our guest today is Chris Kuban, and he's going to bring us a lot of insights on video production, how you can be amazing on the video screen for your next call. So, Chris, I'm going to throw it back to you. You're in St. Louis. There's a lot that we're going to talk about during these next 30 minutes, but most importantly, I want everyone at home to know that please put in your questions in the chat and we'll get to as many questions as possible. That's what makes this space particularly exciting, is that live element. You get to ask your questions and we'll answer them during the 30 minutes. Chris, welcome. Tell us about your work.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. Well, I'm Chris Kuban, obviously, with Chemistry PR and Multimedia here in St. Louis. And we're primarily a public relations and high-profile event management company. However, we realized about 7 years ago, if we we're outside of a media market and we shot video of our stories, we shot the B-roll and we shot the interviews, we could send that to our the local TV stations and they'd run the stories almost 100% of the time. So that's how we got into video, and through the pandemic, it's really helped us transition and work with more clients. But really, your topic here is amazing because a lot of people really don't get that when they're on camera, just like when you're doing a TV interview, you're always on camera. And ironically, we were on a Zoom call just a couple weeks ago, and my background caught your eye. In fact, my logo right behind me is what got you to reach out to me. So yes. I think it's really cool to know that when you're on camera, you're always on camera. And there's a lot of awesome tips that we can go through today to help some of your audience understand that.
For sure. And one of the things that obviously when we got to talking, Chris, and we're both in the public relations business, obviously, but you told me that you're in a building that you have, a historic building in St. Louis that you've turned into a multi-purpose production facility. And that's exciting because you may even be able to give us a little tour of some of your other spaces where you have different setups. You have a podcasting studio as well. And I think one of the things I'd love to explore with you is that this topic of backgrounds. So many people, in fact, it seems to be the number one question I get asked is, how do I deal with my background? And as you just said, your branding is impeccable. Not only do you have your logo on the screen behind you, but you have cameras. There's no question that you're in the video production business, which is the opportunity that so many people miss, right? Is to incorporate branding elements into your shot.
Well, and whenever we're representing a client, or to give you an example, last year I was the president of the St. Louis chapter of the Public Relations Society of America, and I did 30 webinars right here in our studio, and I had the PRSA logo right on the screen behind me. But you can even make a simple background in your home. I have a picture of a camera hanging on the wall, so that's always used as my background. And I really detest, and I hope I don't offend any of your audience today, but anybody that uses one of the fake backgrounds or the green screens. If you're using a fake background or a green screen without a green screen, you're really not doing yourself a service. You're really doing yourself a disservice because it doesn't look good. It doesn't look professional. Mm-hmm. If you're given a presentation, I really despise using your iPods in your ears. You need a microphone with great accessibility to hear you from your laptop. Just giving a presentation like this is important for that audio to work well.
Okay, let's back up a second because you gave us a whole ton of insights. Let's talk about backgrounds first. So because the audio I know is very, very important. So let's take the backgrounds and sort of dive a little bit deeper into that. You have an LED screen, right? Which would take the place of perhaps your PowerPoint, right? You could actually do your presentation there. So tell me how that would work, and is it difficult or easy to implement for someone?
Very easy to implement. In fact, if you give me just a second, I'm going to grab a keyboard over here.
Okay.
And I am going to change just with the click, or it should be just with the click of a button,
Okay.
the actual logos. And of course now it's, let's see, there we go. So I have different logos that I can flip between depending on who I'm representing. And lighting is obviously key with whatever studio you use. I have a whole lighting set here on with me. I also use what's called key lights. So there's a number of key lights that I can add to accent kind of what we're doing throughout. But props are also what I like to use when I'm giving a presentation, so I can easily explain who we are and what we do and how we help people.
Okay, so you have props. Obviously, those are working cameras, and that's a place where you would be doing some production, some recording, right?
Definitely.
So what if we don't have? I'm not in your business. Let's say that I was in a totally different business. Let's say that I was a dentist, and how would you style the background? So that
I would say, I mean, if you're doing networking events or you're on Zoom with a local chamber of commerce, set up one of your offices, one of your dentist chairs as a backdrop, something that shows that you're a dentist. Even if there's a picture behind you of someone with their smiling or some success stories, something that's in your background that says who you are and what you do and why people should remember you.
Right. So in essence, what you're saying is that where possible, use a physical background versus virtual, right? Because
Without a doubt,
like you, if I see that Golden Gate Bridge one more time, I'm going to scream. Or worse,
sitting on a beach. I mean, if you're networking with someone and you're sitting on a beach, you're probably not at the right mental state to be networking with somebody.
Yes, the swaying palm trees is another
Yes.
one that gets me. In any event, well, we're talking business communication, right? So what we do in our private, personal, family, social chats is totally different. So for business purposes, we really have to be on brand. What if someone wanted to use a virtual background? I know you have a green screen and the far wall. What would be your best advice?
Absolutely use great lighting, but make sure that you have the green screen. If you don't have the green screen behind you, you're going to come out pixelated a little bit around your hair, or basically when you use your hand gestures, areas around your fingers are not going to be chroma keyed correctly, and it's just not going to look professional. So I advise definitely use a green screen. One of the other factors that I would like people to know is that if you're bald or if you have glasses, if you end up looking into a light, you can actually see the reflection. So obviously try not to look directly to the light when you're actually talking or presenting on a Zoom call or a call like this.
Right. Do you have anti-glare glasses, the lenses?
I do.
Now? They look like this.
It still glares at times. So it depends on how powerful the light is. But also if you're balding or like me at this point, you can see a little bit of glare because I have the light turned up just a little bit too much. But I apologize for that.
But listen, I was watching the Academy Awards last night, and it seemed that the lighting was so off because everyone on stage had this shine as if they had not been powdered. There was a very strong reflection on people's foreheads, particularly men, that I found, and I changed sets to see whether it was some setting on the set that I was watching, and it seemed like it was something to do with the production. So it happens at all levels. But yeah, there's some things you can't change, but what you can change and can control as it relates to looking your best, right? As you said in your summary to me, look amazing on video. Tell me about the lighting, because that's another issue that is asked a lot. How do you set up lighting? Should people invest or work with what they have?
I think it really depends on your budget. At my house, I have 3 monitors sitting in front of me when I have my workstation. And I have a cheap $14 IKEA light that I'll turn that IKEA light from down on the desk to just on me. And it works for me at my home office. When I'm here at my studio, we have about 3 or 4 different locations that we tend to do Zoom calls at. And sometimes I don't want to bother anybody else, so I do use the AirPods. But on most cases, we have enough space to where people can be at different locations and we won't interfere with them. But yeah, we have, like I said, multiple locations of where we can actually use great backgrounds.
Yeah. Okay. And the lighting, when you said, I mean, a formula about the 3-point lights, right? So one on each side, and then so
Yes.
that
Oh, yes.
is that still something that you would recommend to people if they can use inexpensive lamps that they might have at home?
So definitely, if you have 3 different lights you can put in a room and make the room look as bright as you can. I mean, here in my studio, I think I probably have about $4,000 worth of lights. So for me, it's really easy to utilize the lights I have. But when I move to a different location, it is harder. And there's several different types of lights I have here, and I can actually spin my camera around, and I'll
Sure.
actually show you, because sometimes I use a cheat sheet as well, to where I have a whiteboard in front of me that has a lot of info on it, and I can actually,
So you don't forget my name.
there you go, it definitely. And then we have, this is a key light, which is just a wand light, and then we have a couple other lights, which are pretty big LED lights, which help. And we have multiple backgrounds, so we have a white screen and a green screen here in house. And usually you can buy those very inexpensively for under $100. If they're 9-foot ones, you can go into your basement and set these up very easily. For a 150-foot roll is only like $100 at your local photography store.
Okay. Yeah, but it has to be taut, right? You can't have wrinkles or sags, right? Because that's going to show up on the.
Yeah, that's why I actually use the paper background, is because it's easier to cut, and it's easier to eliminate any of the wrinkles or sags or anything else. Is that you just hang it up, and it's worked great.
Right. No, I thought it was actually a painted wall, because there is paint that's sold now that has that same green tint that is used in green screen chroma key, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Paint. That's cool.
Although I don't know, I'd want that in my house.
it's not the best color. And of course, we want to remind people never to wear green if you're going to be using a green screen, because you'll disappear.
Yes, it's funny when you watch the weathermen sometimes, and they are wearing green. It's the you see right through them, or you see the image that is projected up on the green screen.
Right. I want to remind everybody to please post your questions in the comments, and we will answer them all during the time we have left. Chris, tell us about wardrobe, because you were asking me whether you should wear your jacket or not, and I know that there's a lot to talk about with wardrobe, and it's all really. A lot is related to your brand and where you are and your message. So go into that a little bit for us.
So sometimes I feel like I need a stylist, because I'm not the most stylish type of guy, but I think in doing a professional interview, a sport jacket for men, being as dressed up as you possibly can, just like a job interview. There might be opportunities for business out there for me on this call or another call. I try and look as professional as I possibly can. Even when I'm talking to students at local universities, I say, look, you never know who's going to be on the other end of that call. That might be someone that will reach out to you as a potential job, or you might inspire someone, or so spark a conversation. And you want them to think the best of you. And in order to do that, you have to look good. So make sure that your lighting is good, your wardrobe is good, your background is good. You're going to make a great first impression if you make sure all of that is top notch.
Yes. And we know that there is no second chance to make a first impression, right? So,
well, you say that, and your dog actually rolled up right behind you on your couch. So that's kind of funny, but
he's welcome. That's his spot. He makes a cameo appearance when I'm doing
perfect.
these.
Well, I do want to say that you're absolutely right. There's no way to make a second first impression, and audio is absolutely key when you're doing your presentation. And I'll go back 2 months ago. I lost a $70,000 project because I actually use a lot of these headsets. So I have 3 different headsets. 2 of them are connected to my computer. One's connected to my phone. And I didn't realize that one of them was connected to my computer while I was trying to log into a Teams meeting. And we couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. And it was because my headset was connected as my audio source. And I made a really bad first impression on that project pitch because I couldn't figure out my audio. But granted, I dislike Teams, and I went into it not having used Teams very often. And another example was today, Rosemary. I logged in to do this this actually symposium with you, and I realized that it didn't use Safari. So I had to kind of adapt and overcome and go to Chrome and use Chrome to use this platform.
Yes.
So make sure you're prepared.
People have to log in early, test their equipment, take nothing for granted. Because, yeah, it's happened to me as well. There have been times when there's been an update in the Logitech software and Zoom doesn't recognize the camera. So it's like suddenly I'm there and I can't get my camera to work. So my backup is usually my laptop, which is always ready, fired up, just in case. So it's all these things can happen. And, there have been times during this Makeover Mondays when my guest has lost connection. I don't want to bring the gremlins in, but it's happened, so that then I have to be ready to fill in the time until the person can come back on. It happens, but whatever you can avoid, that you can take some steps, right, to be preventive and to practice and to make sure everything's working optimally. That certainly goes a long way. Tell us more about audio, because you said were not a fan of earbuds, but we see a lot of guests on cable news programs using earbuds, as well as the conventional wired hands-free.
Well, I would only say use earbuds if there's other people in the room that are going to be distracted by you having audio on your computer and basically communicating this way. But to make a presentation, you want to look the most authentic you can. And I don't think wearing headsets or earphones or AirPods or whatever, I don't think it does it. It just is a distraction, I think, when you're communicating with somebody.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, I know you have a surprise. You're going to show us some of the other spaces that you use that can give us a sense of how you can change sets very quickly. I do want to remind everybody to please ask your questions. And then Chris is he's turning off his camera because he's going to walk to a different location. He's going to show us how quickly he can change his set and give us a different taste for his brand and for the variety of work that he does. So just by a simple adjustment, he can really transform the way he comes across and projects his brand on video. And you can, wow, that was fast.
Well, I try and actually have my background and my logo no matter where I'm at in my building or at home, so people know kind of who we are and what we do. And whether that's the brand on the wall here, Chemistry PR and Multimedia, or you see the guitar or an old newspaper stand, it kind of talks to who we are and what we do from a communication standpoint. And you always want to have something talk to people as to kind of what might touch them, and have them reach out and call you or reach out to you to see if you might be a solution to one of their problems.
Yes. And I noticed that you didn't hesitate. You landed exactly where you needed to be so that you're framed properly, right, at the right eye line and height, so that you're properly framed and you're not obstructing the logo behind you. So do you have markers where you know where you have to?
The irony of you asking me this question is that I am sitting on a couch right now, and I have a coffee table in front of me, and I've found that there is a trash can that if I turn the trash can upside down and I put my laptop right on the trash can, it's right at that eye level. In the other location I was just at, I have a podium that I actually sit on a stool, because you want to make sure you're not slouching, you're not sitting back, you're actually kind of you're in frame when you're giving your presentation or talking to somebody. So it's really key that you don't use a swivel chair, because I find that when you're sitting in a swivel chair, you tend to move back and forth or from side to side, and you really want to be stationary looking forward. You and I both know from doing media interviews, you want to plant your feet or you want to plant yourself and you want to talk directly to the camera. Even when you're off camera, you want to smile and you want to be happy and look inviting so people want to reach out. I know it's uncomfortable to always smile, but usually if I have someone on Fox Business News or on CNN or CBS Nightly News, I know that they need to smile 30 seconds before they go on and 30 seconds after they go off, because the camera's not always off. Same with when you're doing a Zoom or some sort of presentation via the web here.
Yeah, and it should also be something that becomes second nature when you're listening, because I think the smile, the head nod is a good way to acknowledge what someone else is saying, so that you are being an active listener and have more animated expression. I think it's important, certainly when we're speaking, when we see people, even though we may not be able to look at every tile, but we know that people are acknowledging what we're saying, we're being heard. And that's such an important component of remote communication, right? And it's just a discipline we all have to develop. And I think all this will really help us when we go back to physical contact, physical meeting spaces. I think we'll be just so much more polished, don't you think, when we go back to in real life?
I can't wait for that to happen. In fact, I think, Rosemary, you and I are both people persons, I guess. We love to interact with other people. So having the nonverbals to be able to see that and read that is real important, especially when you're on Zoom and communicating with somebody one-on-one or even in a group. This really allows you a better way to interact with people than just picking up the phone. But I want to stress this. Don't hide behind your computer. You also need to pick up the phone and have conversations with people. You need to be proactive if you're looking for a job. You need to be proactive if you're looking for clients. You have to really reach out and identify who you want to go after. And the old phone dial, to reach somebody, it's not dead. People have their phones by them all the time. So don't wait. Just go and make it happen.
Is it that refreshing when you get a phone call from someone? It's like, I think, well, am I doing something that's out of fashion? Is the person going to respond well, or think that, I like, what are you doing calling me? A voice call?
I'll go one step better. Today, I got a letter from somebody who wanted to introduce themselves to me. And it was on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper with his business card in there. And I reached out to him on LinkedIn because it was a unique way to reach out. Just that handwritten signature saying hello. And yeah. I hadn't had that for a long time, so I thought I'd reach out to him.
Yes. I sent out all my holiday cards individually with a personalized message to everyone, and it took time, but I enjoy doing it, and it was received very well, because people don't take the time to do that anymore. So I think all those things just make everything more human, right? And ultimately what we want to do is come across as human beings who are, bringing value to relationships, to businesses, who are problem solvers, who can, we have to sort of live the brands that we represent, right? And walk the walk and talk the talk.
So to that point, I actually gave a presentation with Aurora Meyer. I co-presented with her about a month ago. And there's some key points, I think, that are really important to making yourself look good on camera on these Zoom calls. Okay. One is to be engaging. When you're speaking, engage with others. The second, we've already discussed at length today. Think about your background and what it says about you. Monitor yourself, but don't be fixated on yourself. Make sure that you're looking good in the light. Make sure that your audio is good. But that's another point on my list here. So the next one is making sure that good lighting is definitely your friend. Mention that. Dress for the topic. We discussed that. Audio matters, and it's a big quality issue. Right. One of the groups that I think you and I are both on, the moderator doesn't use a good audio microphone, and it's hard to understand him when he speaks. So I hope that he actually gets a better mic here soon. But if you need to ask for questions, please consider asking questions. So don't be afraid to ask for assistance. Right. Next one is be brief. When you're speaking, don't go on and belabor kind of your whole point. Get your point across and then be quiet. Let someone else speak. And the next one is watch your speed. We all get excited when we speak, especially if it's something that we're very passionate about. So make sure that you consider slowing yourself down. And I want to thank Aurora Meyer for helping put this list together. It's really something I think that everyone needs to be mindful of. when they're doing a presentation or a job interview or interviewing somebody via Zoom or another platform like this.
Yes, that's it's such a valuable one. It's one that doesn't get enough airplay. But I second that, because I tell clients I coach privately to make it as brief as possible. It goes across better. It's better understood. And you don't have the luxury of everyone's attention span. Attention spans are very short. So get to the point quickly. And then you have to also speak more slowly, right? Because of some of the latency at times that happens with the video and the audio not matching. So there's a bit of distortion at times that makes it awkward. So I think these are very, very important points. If you were to say, what is the most important? This is really a trick question, because I have my own approach. In terms of audio, video, technology, messaging, what would be the most important? If you had to pick one, what would be the most important one for video communication?
I think show up early and make sure your technology is working properly. Is test, and test again, and make sure that you're ready to go when it's go time. I mean, when this clock's hit 11 Central Standard Time, we were ready to go. Every webinar that I did last year, over 30 webinars, we showed up 15 minutes beforehand and we made sure everything was working properly. So when you're at go time, you're ready to go and there's no snafus or flaws.
Sure. In terms of what's the most important, I think what you said about audio, because if push comes to shove and you're in a group meeting, you at least want to be heard, right? And if for some reason your video isn't working properly, at least you can participate through voice. So I'd say it's something that many people don't really give enough importance to, the audio quality. And we're so accustomed now to that echoey kind of echo chamber, being in a tin can kind of sound that comes from Zoom, mostly because we're using inappropriate microphones most of the time, right? The built-in microphones, for example. So it's important to test that. And one thing that's important when you said ask for assistance, Chris, is to check it out with a friend. Take a screenshot or have someone take a screenshot from the receiving end, because what you see on your screen is not necessarily what other people are seeing. So having that perspective from the receiving end, I think, is important to really polish up the way we look and sound.
So the other thing is every platform has a different screen size, meaning Zoom has a different screen size than Teams. So framing up your background is also key because you don't want to be squished. I know this platform has a couple different options when you're presenting, but some of those backgrounds don't work for
yeah, we
when
can do this, but
exactly,
it's better to
and you
do
just
this.
crop out everything that is in the background. And that's a great example, is make sure that you're framed properly. And audio is key. When we're doing video production for clients, you can have the best video you possibly can, but if you don't have audio to tell that story, you don't have a story. So in the same light, with Zoom or these types of calls, you definitely need good audio.
Wonderful. How can people reach you? I'm going to put your website here again. And is there a way to follow you, to subscribe to a newsletter, or tell us how to.
Sure, people can go to our website. We're national. We do projects in New York, LA, kind of all across the country. I think we produced events in 232 cities across the country. And go to my website, or you can give us a call at 314-603-2866. But that's on the website as well. You could just click connect, and we can set up a Zoom and kind of get networking that way.
Excellent. And this is the way to check your Zoom IQ on my website, getyourzoomscore.com. It's a fun interactive quiz on my website, rosemaryravinal.com. And I look forward to our next conversation, Chris. There's so much here, and I'd love to invite you to come back for Makeover Mondays. Thank you so much for all your generous ideas and for your time.
Thank you, Rosemary. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Okay. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.